Good morning, everybody. This is Ken Norton from PanamaProperties.com. I'm the owner here, and we have a network of agents throughout the country. We're a licensed brokerage in Panama, and we have offices in Pedasi, Panama City, and Boquete. So today I want to cover the topic of opening a bank account in Panama. There's a little bit of nuances to this, so I'm going to give you a general overview, give you a few of my opinions from experiences, but it is definitely a topic that clients ask me about a lot. And obviously it's important if you're going to move here, invest here, buy a vacation property here, in order to be able to pay contractors, pay bills, move your money into Panama in order to make the purchases, things like that. So I think it's something very important to go over and address with people, because it's something that comes up every single day of my life with dealing with clients. So the big question, I guess, is always, can foreigners open bank accounts here? The easy answer to that is yes. However, there's definitely some steps that need to go through. Okay, so there's a few different types of bank accounts that most people can open in Panama. Obviously, it's very similar to the countries that we all come from. So you can have a personal checking account, you can have a savings account, and you can also have a corporate or business account attached to a corporation or a foundation. Another word for a foundation is a trust fund. So I did another video on foundations, I believe, not long ago. Please check that out within the blog. Obviously, if you're opening up a corporation or a foundation bank account, there's a lot more steps to jump through. There's a lot more paperwork to fill out. And for my American friends, there's also a lot more boxes to check and more papers to provide because of your friendly neighborhood IRS and the obligations that you guys have to meet to those people that we love and hug every day. So in order to open up a bank account here, it depends on the bank. But basically, you're going to need a passport, the original and the copy. You're going to need a second ID, something like a driver's license, birth certificate, something along those lines. Usually, the banks are going to want proof of income as well. So this means employment letters, tax returns, things like that. Okay, contracts. If you're self-employed, showing they want to know where the money comes from, and a lot of that has to do with the anti-money laundering regulations that exist in Panama. Usually, they're going to want a bank reference letter from the bank that you deal with in your home country. They're also going to want to see a personal reference letter lots of times, and this comes from maybe a lawyer, an accountant, usually a professional person that you deal with in your home country. Utility bills. Quite often, if you have a Panamanian utility bill already set up, that's going to help, or at least utility bills from back home. You're going to have to fill out a lot of paperwork. You're going to have to show source of funds declaration. So lots of times, if you're Canadian, you want to bring in your notice of assessments. If you're American, you want to bring in your W-2s, your W-9s, or if you're self-employed, whatever those types of records are. I tell people, and people are surprised when I say this, but opening a bank account here, you want to get in there as soon as you can in the morning, because lots of times you're going to be there for at least 4 hours. Also, in Panama, sometimes they'll tell you all the documents to bring, and maybe they told you that 2 weeks ago, and by the time you show up, something's changed. They never updated you that you have to bring a new document, and you'll be going back the next day or when you obtain that document. So don't get upset. Don't get stressed. It's just the way things go here sometimes, but at the minimum, plan on being there for at least 4 hours to open up an account, okay? Here, some of the best banks I have listed in the article that I'm going to post below this video. Multibank's a good bank, but I know I've had people that deal with them and they want a lot of proof of where money's going and where money's coming from. My favorite bank to deal with is Benismo, okay? They're owned by Banco Colombia, and they tend to ask the least amount of questions. Not that they don't do their diligence or their KYC, but they do tend to not bother clients as much. And most clients I set up with and the lawyers that I deal with that sets things up are with Benismo, okay? They also have online English banking app, online website in English, and telephone support in English. So that's really important. BAC is on the rise, and they're apparently quite easy to deal with. I personally have never dealt with them, but I know when people are setting up businesses and they need to get credit card processing machines, a lot of people choose to go to BAC because they tend to be a little bit easier to deal with on that level. Scotiabank, it's a Canadian bank, so a lot of people will go there thinking that it's easier to deal with. Scotiabank in Panama and Scotiabank in Canada are not associated in any way, okay? So when you're dealing with Scotiabank in Panama, you're dealing with Scotiabank in Panama, and there's not a lot of connections back to the home offices in Canada. However, if you're looking for borrowing money, credit, mortgages, things like that, a lot of people, and I did a video earlier this week on getting credit, Scotiabank tends to be one of the easier ones in order to get a mortgage or credit from sooner than later in Panama. Credit Corp Bank is one of the banks that I was with, and my attorneys when I first came to Canada set me up with Credit Corp Bank. They were very easy to open up with. However, what I got was, I was going through a renovation in my house. I was buying a truck, I was doing this, I was doing that, and they wanted me to give facturas, which are invoices, back on where all this money went. So they weren't asking me about where did the money come from, but they were asking me, oh, we saw you had a $1,000 transaction in your account. Where'd that money go? We need an invoice for that. We saw you had a $3,200 transaction in your account. Where'd that money go? We need an invoice for that. After dealing with that for a few months, I did move away, and I moved all my business over to Benismo because they don't tend to bother me with that stuff, okay? Sometimes when you go to a bank, there's minimum deposit requirements of $500, $1,000 they want to see for opening the account. Benismo, when I opened up, I've had multiple accounts at Benismo, $100, $50, they don't care. They're fine. They just want something in the account when they open it. Huge question I get asked. Is your money safe? As a Canadian, I know we have $250,000 deposit insurance on our accounts in Canada. Here, that stuff doesn't usually work, but there's huge international compliances, and there's never been a Panamanian bank that's failed and taken the people's deposits. So there's a long history of very robust, very conservative banking in Panama, and there's never been a problem. Personally, I trust Panamanian banks more than most of the banks back in my home country, okay? When opening a bank account, sometimes you're going to need to have your residency process already going, which means that your lawyer that either somebody like me's referred you to or the lawyer that you found yourself will help you to open up the bank accounts. They'll give you a reference letter. They'll inform the bank that you are starting your residency process, and that's why you need the bank account, because sometimes opening a bank account, you can't just show up in a foreign country and just open a bank account. So if you're going through the residency process because you've invested, you've purchased a property, it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, okay? So you need a bank account to do residency, but you can't get a bank account until you have residency. This is where lawyers come in, that they help you to start the process in order to get a bank account, because they're going to tell the bank that they're working through the residency process with you, and they're going to give the bank the proof to do that, okay? So that's important, I think. It's not easy. It's a long process, but many of the clients that I've worked with over the years have had the bank accounts open, and they're now existing here. I think it is better that if you're going to have a life, whether it's part-time or full-time in Panama, to have a bank account. It makes life a lot easier, especially for paying people, paying bills, all that type of stuff. If there's anything I can do to help you on this subject, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name's Ken Norton. I'm with Panama Properties. You can get us on our website at panama-properties.com. My information, my contact details, my WhatsApp, it's all over the website, okay? Any questions on this again? Please feel free to reach out. If I can help, I try to help. Take care. Have a nice day.